There is a particular kind of man the world never says no to. Not because he is always right, not because he is always kind, but because somewhere along the way, the world decided that a man with enough money never has to hear the word, and he stopped expecting to. Andrew Conyers was that man. 41 years old, sharp jaw, dark hair, the kind of presence that a room notices before he speaks. He had taken his father's collapsed company at age 22 and rebuilt it into a $4.7 billion real estate empire. His buildings stood in the skylines of 6 cities. His name was on boardrooms, on foundations, on the lips of people who had never once met him but spoke about him like someone they had studied for years. Every door opened before he knocked. Every room adjusted to him. Every person in his life had learned very quickly that Andrew Conyers did not wait, did not ask twice, and did not hear the word no. He had told himself this was simply the cost of building what he had built. He had told himself a lot of things. None of them prepared him for the Tuesday morning a woman walked into his building, looked him in the eye, and said no, simply, cleanly, without apology, like it was the most natural thing she had ever done. He told himself it was irritating. He told himself it was temporary. What it actually was, he would not be able to name for several weeks. But by the time he could, it had already changed everything. Now, if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found this channel. If stories like this one speak to something in you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because I tell stories like this every single week and I would hate for you to miss the next one. And somewhere down in the comments, tell me where in the world you are watching from. I read every single one, and it never stops amazing me how far these stories travel. Now let's get into it. Her name was Sara Smith, 34 years old, dark skin, warm eyes, natural curly hair she wore with the easy confidence of a woman who had long since stopped arranging herself for other people's comfort. She was an interior architect with her own firm, brought in by the Conyers Group Board to redesign the private executive floors of the Manhattan Tower. She arrived on a Monday morning with her team, her mood boards, and her full, unhurried attention pointed entirely at the work. Andrew stopped by the 38th floor at 11 that morning. He told himself it was to review the design direction. His assistant, who had worked for him for 7 years, did not say a word. Sara greeted him professionally. She shook his hand, firm, brief, answered every question with quiet precision, walked him through the material selections with the composed authority of someone who knew her work deeply and did not need his approval to confirm it. Then she thanked him for his time, turned back to her wall of samples, and continued working. She did not look back. Andrew stood in the doorway 4 seconds longer than he intended. Then he walked back to the elevator. That evening he sat at his desk and realized, with a discomfort he could not immediately locate, that Sara Smith had treated him like a scheduled appointment. Attended to. Efficient. Concluded. He could not remember the last time someone had made him feel like a scheduling consideration. He did not sleep well that night. He invited her to dinner on Wednesday. He framed it as a project briefing, a chance to align on the vision for the penthouse level over a meal. Professional. Reasonable. The kind of invitation that, in Andrew's experience, was never declined. Sara looked at him with clear, warm, completely unbothered eyes. "I keep my client relationships professional," she said. "But thank you." No apology in her voice. No door left open. No performance of regret designed to soften the refusal or leave him something to hold on to. Just a clean, honest answer offered with the same natural ease she brought to everything else. "Of course," Andrew said. Completely understood. He walked back to his office and stood at the window for a long time. He had been told no before, in negotiations, in boardrooms, by cities that had initially rejected his proposals. But those no's had always felt like opening positions, like the beginning of a conversation. Sara's no had felt like a complete sentence. He picked up his phone, set it down, picked it up again. Then he did something he had not done in years. He actually checked, how long it had been since anyone had declined anything he offered. 11 years. He sat with that number for a very long time. Andrew did what he had always done when something unsettled him. He escalated. He began finding reasons to be on the 38th floor. A structural query, a lighting concern, a question about the material sourcing timeline that his own project manager could have answered in 30 seconds. He had the building's best coffee redirected to Sara's team station, quietly, without announcement. Sara received all of it with the same warm, professional, entirely unreadable composure. She thanked him for the coffee on behalf of her team. She answered every question with full competence. She engaged him with genuine courtesy and gave him nothing extra. Not a longer glance, not a softened tone, not a single moment of the warmth that is offered only to people one is beginning to let in. He sent a senior associate to support her process. She thanked him warmly and assigned him a specific filing task within the hour. On a Thursday afternoon, Andrew arrived at her workspace with a question that was technically legitimate and entirely pretextual. Sara answered it in 4 sentences, offered a follow-up document, and returned to her screen before he had finished responding. He walked back to the elevator with the clarifying awareness that he had just been quietly and completely outmaneuvered. Not aggressively, not deliberately. She had simply been too focused on her actual work to notice there was a game being played. That, Andrew was beginning to understand, was the most destabilizing thing about Sara Smith. She was not withholding herself to create desire. She was simply not available to become whoever he needed her to be. He had never encountered that before. He could not stop thinking about it. It was a Friday evening, late, the floor quiet. Andrew passed Sara's workspace on his way to the stairwell and saw it through the glass. A small wooden cross on the shelf beside her monitor. A framed photograph of a laughing older woman with Sara's same warm eyes. A post-it note in neat handwriting. Do the work. Trust the rest. He stood there a moment longer than he meant to. Monday morning at the coffee station, he asked her about it. Casually, as if he had simply thought of it. Sara looked up from her cup, unhurried. My mother gave it to me the day I opened my firm, she said. She told me, baby, do good work and don't shrink yourself for any room you walk into. Andrew was quiet. She sounds like a woman who never needed to be impressed, he said. Sara smiled. Full, easy, all the way through. She never was, Sara said. Not once in her 73 years. She also used to say that the right man will find you whole, not half. She believed that completely. Andrew picked up his coffee and thought about that sentence for the rest of the day. He thought about the woman in the photograph, the warmth in her eyes, the laugh lines, the way she looked like someone who had never once performed joy because joy was simply what she was. He thought about it, honestly, for much longer than that. 3 weeks in, Andrew brought Sara to the unfinished 41st floor penthouse under the pretense of reviewing the final design scope. The space was raw, exposed concrete, floor-to-ceiling glass on every side, Manhattan burning gold and deep blue in every direction. The kind of view that had reliably produced awe in every person Andrew had ever brought up there. Sara walked to the window and was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You could have made this anything. Why a home?" Andrew looked at her. Nobody had ever asked him that. She waited, holding space for an honest answer without filling the silence with something easier. He told her, slowly, with more honesty than he had intended, about his father's company collapsing when he was 19, about the apartment they lost, 2 bedrooms, Chicago, a window that looked out at a skyline he had promised himself he would one day own a piece of, about his mother, who worked 2 jobs without complaint and died before she saw the first building go up. She would have found the whole thing very funny, he said. It came out quieter than he meant it to. Sara looked at him with an expression that was not pity. It was something more valuable, the clear, steady regard of someone genuinely seeing you and finding nothing that requires adjustment. You built the window back, she said softly. Andrew had no answer. Manhattan glittered 41 floors below. Neither of them moved for a long time. Something passed between them in the quiet, unhurried, unannounced, and entirely real. It was a Monday morning, 10 days after the penthouse. Sara arrived to find her team celebrating. A $3.2 million commercial contract, 3 times the size of anything her firm had bid for, had been redirected to her by the Conyers Group board over the weekend. Her team thought it was a breakthrough. Sara went very still. She found Andrew at 9 a.m. and closed his office door behind her. "Did you do this?" she said. Andrew confirmed it. He had believed, genuinely, that he was helping, opening a door she deserved. Sara looked at him with the quiet precision of a woman who has spent her entire career building something real with her own hands. "I don't want doors open for me," she said. "I want to earn what I walk through. You made a decision about my professional reputation without asking me. Now, every person on that project will wonder whether I got it because I was good enough or because a billionaire made a call. She paused. I need you to reverse it. Andrew sat very still. In 11 years, no one had ever asked him to take back something he had given. He looked at Sara, her calm, her clarity, the complete absence of anger in her voice, which was somehow more confronting than anger would have been. He said he would reverse it. She nodded, picked up her portfolio and walked out. He sat at his desk for a long time after the door closed. Andrew reversed the redirect. Quietly, fully, without conditions. The following afternoon he appeared at Sara's workspace with no assistant, no framing, no strategy. I reversed it, he said, and I owe you a real apology, not a professional one. Sara looked up from her screen. I made a decision about your life without asking you and dressed it up as generosity, he said. I told myself I was helping. What I was actually doing was taking up space in your story without being invited. I'm sorry. Sara held his gaze for a long moment. This version of Andrew, no armor, no angle, was something she had not seen before. She did not rush to forgive him. She did not make it easy, but she did not look away. Thank you for saying that, she said finally. Now go, let me finish my work. Andrew almost smiled. He walked back to the elevator, feeling something adjacent to relief. Something that felt, very faintly, like the beginning of becoming someone better. The floor was nearly complete. Sara was in the penthouse space alone on a Thursday evening. Final notes, final measurements, the quiet, focused work of someone finishing something they had built with care. Andrew appeared in the doorway at 7:15 with no legitimate reason and no pretense of one. He simply stood there. Sara looked up. She did not tell him to leave. He sat on the concrete floor beside her material samples without ceremony. And for 40 minutes they talked. Not about the building, not about the project, not about anything with a professional context to hide behind. He told her about his mother's hands. How she used to come home from the second job at 11 and still check his homework. How he had stood at her grave the morning after the first Forbes cover and talked to the headstone for 20 minutes. Because she was the only person he had ever truly wanted to tell. Sara told him about her grandmother, who had raised her from age 9, who had pressed that small wooden cross in her palm the day she left for college and said, "You are already enough. Go show them what enough looks like when it isn't afraid." The city hummed 41 floors below. At some point the distance between them was very small. Neither acknowledged it. Both fell completely. When Sara finally stood to pack her things, Andrew stood too. He did not reach for her. He was learning, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely, that some things were worth the patience of doing them right. "Good night, Andrew," Sara said. He watched her walk to the elevator. The doors closed. He stood at the window for a long time, looking at the city. For the first time and longer than he could honestly account for, it did not feel like it owed him anything. The project concluded on a Friday. Sara's final walkthrough with the board ran 40 minutes. The head of the foundation told her it was the finest interior work the building had ever seen. Gerald from operations shook her hand with both of his and said, "You changed something on these floors." Sara thanked them, collected her grandmother's cross from the shelf, unplugged her laptop, and rode the elevator down. Andrew was in the lobby, not blocking her path, not performing, simply standing near the entrance with one hand in his jacket pocket, wearing the expression of a man who had lost a long argument with himself and was finally prepared to say so. Sara stopped. She looked at him the way she looked at everything she took seriously, fully, clearly, without flinching. "I know you're done here," Andrew said. "I know I don't have a professional reason to ask you anything. I'm asking anyway, not because I think I've earned it, because what exists between us is worth being honest about." He paused. "I've spent my entire adult life in rooms where everyone wanted something from me and not one of them wanted me. You walked in and treated me like a person, not a resource, not a name to be near. You were honest with me when it cost you something. You held your ground when I didn't deserve it. You showed me without trying to what it looks like when a person is completely, wholly themselves." He looked at her steadily. "I would like to know you, outside of this building, at your pace, in your time, on your terms. Not because I deserve another chance, because I think you are worth becoming someone better for, and I believe for the first time in a very long time that I am actually capable of it." The lobby was quiet around them. Sara looked at him for a long moment. Something in her expression settled. Not quickly, not impulsively, but with the deep, unhurried certainty of a woman who has always known her own worth and has been waiting, patiently, to see if he would ever learn it too. She adjusted the strap of her bag. "There's a coffee shop 2 blocks east," she said. "I have an hour." Andrew fell in a step beside her. The Manhattan afternoon was warm and unhurried, the light low and generous the way it gets in late autumn when the city remembers how to be beautiful without trying. He did not reach for her hand. Not yet. He had learned, at great personal cost, with considerable grace from a woman who had never once believed that being fully seen was something to be afraid of, that the best things are not taken. They are built, slowly, honestly, together. Sara glanced at him as they walked, and what was on her face was not triumph, not caution, not the careful optimism of someone attempting something with reservations held in reserve. It was simpler and far more sustaining than any of those things. She was glad, completely, straightforwardly, entirely glad, and she let him see every bit of it, because Sara Smith had never once believed that being wholly seen was something to be afraid of. Andrew Conyers, walking beside her in the afternoon light, was only just beginning to believe the same. If this story moved you the way it moved me to tell it, please give it a like right now. It means more than you know. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is your sign. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a story like this one. One last thing, drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Whether you're in Lagos or London, Atlanta or Accra, New York or Nairobi. I want to know. Every single comment reminds me why I do this. Until the next story, take good care of yourself. And never settle for a love that asks you to be less than exactly who you are.